The news headline had barely stopped flashing across social media when Amelia Reed's phone buzzed with the kind of message she never expected. Family dinner at 7 p.m. Important discussion. Short. Pulled. Typed by her father, Henry Reed, as if he were calling a board meeting, not speaking to his daughter he hadn't supported in years. Amelia stared at the glowing screen in her quiet office, the city lights shimmering behind her like stars pinned to glass. She leaned back slowly in her chair, her fingers brushing the edge of a contract she had been reviewing. "So this is how they reach out," she whispered to the empty room. For a moment, a small part of her wanted to believe it was reconciliation. But the feeling that rose inside her wasn't hope. It was something sharper, colder. Something that told her this wasn't about healing. It was about them needing her. She exhaled and rubbed her forehead. "It begins," she murmured. She remembered being 21, waiting for a good luck call that never came. Nights spent sleeping in her car while her parents said, "Struggle builds character." Now her company's massive valuation was everywhere, and suddenly her father remembered she existed. She stood, grabbed her worn jacket, the one she wore to family dinners because it made her look humble, and whispered, "All right then. Let's see what this is." Amelia locked her office and walked to the elevator, her steps echoing through the quiet hallway. As the doors slid open, she caught her reflection, tired eyes, steady posture. She whispered to herself, "You're not going for approval. You're going for clarity." Instead of taking her luxury SUV, she chose her old sedan, the one her family recognized, the one that made her seem manageable. As she drove through the city, memories crawled back like unwelcome guests. Missed graduations. Birthdays where she sat alone watching the phone that never rang. Her mother Linda calling her business cute. Her older brothers Mark and Daniel, laughing at her little computer thing. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. "They never saw me," she said softly, "but they always saw what I could give." The country club appeared ahead on a small hill, glowing like it was trying too hard to impress. Amelia parked between luxury cars polished like mirrors. Her sedan creaked as she stepped out. She placed her hand on the roof for one grounding second. Tonight wasn't about shrinking. Tonight was about ending a story she'd outgrown. Inside the country club, the marble floors echoed sharply under Amelia's shoes. Gold lights glowed too bright, as if trying to blind her with nostalgia. The air smelled like citrus polish and old money, the same scent from childhood events where she stood on the sidelines unnoticed. As she approached the private dining room, she heard them before she saw them. Her family's laughter, high, forced, fake. The kind that fills silence to hide something darker. When she opened the door, all their heads snapped up like actors caught off script. Henry stood first and opened his arms too wide. "Amelia." Finally. Linda kissed her cheek, then pulled back with disapproval. "You look tired. You need to sleep more." Mark smirked over his wine glass. Daniel didn't look up from his phone. Amelia took a seat slightly away from them, noticing the empty chair was intentionally separated. "Typical," she muttered under her breath. They smiled at her like politicians shaking hands they didn't want to touch. "So," Linda said with fake warmth, "how is your little company?" "Busy," Amelia answered calmly. "Growing fast." Mark hummed, uninterested. "Cute." And just like that, the performance began. They talked about meaningless things, weather, local news, a cousin's engagement, while Amelia answered politely, letting them pretend they cared. Then Mark leaned back, eyes narrowing with glossy curiosity. "So, your name made the news today," he said, trying to sound casual. Henry nodded with a stiff smile. "Quite the attention grabber." Daniel finally looked up from his phone. "Yeah, people are sharing your face everywhere." "Wild." Amelia simply sipped her water. "Yes. It's been a busy day." That was when the air shifted. The fake warmth drained. Her father exchanged a look with her mother. Her uncle Victor cleared his throat, a signal she knew from childhood. Henry leaned forward, fingers steepled like he was negotiating a deal. "We actually wanted to talk to you about something important tonight." Amelia's eyes sharpened. Important discussion. There was the real reason she was summoned. The room suddenly felt colder. She sat back slightly, her heartbeat steady. "All right," she said softly. "I'm listening." Her father inhaled deeply, preparing to deliver a pitch disguised as family unity. Henry didn't waste time. The hotel group has been facing some challenges, he began. His voice wove the word challenges into something gentle, almost poetic, as if dressing it in silk could hide the rot. Victor jumped in quickly. But we're on the brink of something great. A full renovation of the flagship property. Spa. Event hall. Luxury suites. The works. Amelia blinked slowly. That property was practically held together with tape and prayer. Mark leaned forward, excitement glowing in his eyes. This could be a legacy move, Amelia. Something real. Not just digital stuff. Digital stuff. She almost smiled. Linda gently touched Amelia's arm, her voice trembling with misplaced sweetness. Honey, this is your chance to give back. We supported you for so long. Amelia's eyebrows lifted slightly. Supported? Henry cleared his throat. We need a temporary bridge loan. Nothing major. Just 1.5 million. He said it like he was asking for a cup of sugar. Victor added quickly, we'll pay it back with interest once the financing kicks in. Amelia sat still. Silent. Studying their hopeful faces. The daughter they thought would fold. The daughter they thought they still owned. Amelia didn't flinch. Instead, she placed her hands neatly on the table, her expression unreadable. 1.5 million, she repeated calmly. That's what you're asking? Henry nodded as if she had already agreed. It's a small amount for someone in your position. Mark added, and it's for the family. You always say family matters. Linda whispered, we carried you for years. Amelia lifted her eyes. Carried me. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. Yet something sharp flickered behind it. Henry stiffened. Let's not make this emotional. This is business. Oh, it's business? Amelia asked. Good. Then let's discuss it like business. Mark rolled his eyes. Amelia, don't start. You skipped the biggest moment of my life, she said suddenly. Dead silence. Linda blinked. What moment? Amelia leaned in slightly. The day my company crossed its first major milestone. The event I invited all of you to. The event you never acknowledged. No call. No message. Nothing. Henry waved a hand. That was years ago. Amelia nodded slowly. Exactly. Her voice carried a quiet power. Now suddenly my valuation is on the news and you remember my number. The table fell still. A shift began, something they didn't see coming yet. But Amelia felt it. The moment where hope inside her finally died, leaving only clarity. Henry tried to regain control, straightening his jacket. Amelia, you're being dramatic. This is about building a future for the family. Amelia's eyes hardened. No. This is about fixing a problem you created. Victor cleared his throat the way he always did before lying politely. Amelia, the hotel chain just needs a little push. A bridge loan. You help now and you'll be part of something lasting. Lasting, she echoed. Like the leaky roofs. The broken heating. The unpaid contractor bills. Mark froze mid-smirk. Daniel finally put his phone down. Henry's face tightened. How do you even know about that? Amelia tilted her head. I pay attention. You've just never noticed. Linda's voice cracked. We're trying to include you, sweetie. Amelia's expression didn't move. You want money, not inclusion. Victor raised both palms. You're misunderstanding the situation. Amelia exhaled slowly. No. I understand perfectly. You're not looking for a partner. You're looking for a lifeline. The room stiffened. Henry's voice dropped into a low warning. Watch yourself. Amelia didn't blink. Or what? You'll stop supporting me? That single line burned through the room like a blade. Because they all knew they never had. The men exchanged glances and Amelia saw the panic rising, quiet but undeniable. She reached calmly into her bag and pulled out a plain manila folder, placing it in the center of the table. What's that? Mark asked. Facts, Amelia said. Victor laughed nervously. Come on, Amelia. Don't be ridiculous. Open it, she said. Henry grabbed the folder and flipped through the pages. His face drained of color. Mark leaned over to look. Daniel stood to get a better view. Linda covered her mouth. Every page was a record: unpaid invoices, code violations, loan defaults, maintenance reports, bank notices. This, Henry whispered, is private. So was using me as your emergency fund, Amelia replied. Victor snapped. Where did you get these? Amelia folded her hands. From the bank. Your debt was sold last week. Daniel blinked rapidly. Sold? To who? Amelia met her father's eyes. To me. The room fell silent, thick and suffocating. Mark's voice cracked. You bought the debt? Yes. Why? Amelia answered softly, because I knew you'd come begging. And I wanted to be prepared. The door suddenly opened and Amelia's advisor, Claire, walked in, shoulders straight, presence cold and professional. Without looking at anyone except Amelia, she said, everything is confirmed. Transfer complete. Henry stood so fast his chair toppled. Transfer? Of what? Claire placed another set of documents on the table. Amelia slid them toward her father. Your hotel group, she said. All assets tied to the outstanding debt. They're legally under my company now. Victor grabbed the documents, flipping wildly through them. This can't be real. We still have options. You don't, Claire replied coolly. The bank accepted the offer immediately. The debt was overwhelming. Mark slammed his palm on the table. You tricked us. Amelia looked at him with a calm he'd never seen. No. I simply didn't let you trick me again. Linda stood up trembling. Amelia, what have you done to us? Amelia looked at her mother for a long moment. Exactly what you raised me to do. Survive. Henry tried to speak but no words came out. His empire, what he thought was an empire, was slipping right through his fingers. The room erupted, voices overlapping in anger, fear, blame. Henry pointed at her. You think you can humiliate me like this? Amelia stood slowly, pushing her chair back with grace instead of rage. I didn't come to humiliate you. I came because I wanted to finally hear the truth from your mouths. And you delivered exactly what I expected. Mark shouted, you should have told us. We're your family. Amelia's eyes softened, not with mercy but with understanding. Family, she repeated quietly. You weren't there when I needed you. You weren't there when I cried alone in my car. When I started my company. When I almost quit. You only show up when you smell opportunity. Linda reached for her. Please, honey. But Amelia stepped back. I'm not your rescue plan, she said. Not anymore. Claire handed Henry a final envelope. Her buyout offer. 200,000. Pling. More than the equity is worth. Henry's face twisted. I'll never take your charity. Amelia gave a small nod. It's not charity, Dad. It's severance. With that, the final crack echoed across the room. Quiet, brutal, undeniable, marking the beginning of an ending none of them saw coming. Henry's face twisted in fury, but beneath it Amelia saw something else, fear. Real fear. The kind a man feels when the ground he stood on for decades suddenly disappears. You are no daughter of mine, he spat. But for the first time in her life the words didn't pierce her. They dissolved before reaching her skin. Amelia stood taller. You're right, she said quietly. I'm not the daughter you expected. I'm the daughter your choices created. Mark muttered angrily, flipping through documents. This can't stand. We'll challenge it. We'll fight it. You think you can walk in here and take everything? Amelia turned to him calmly. I didn't take everything. I bought the debt you ignored. I followed the laws you refused to understand. Victor's voice cracked. People will think we're incompetent. Amelia paused. Maybe stop doing incompetent things. Linda began crying, soft, dramatic sobs meant to guilt someone susceptible. But Amelia wasn't a child anymore. She looked at her mother, her voice steady. Mom, crying won't rebuild the properties. And it won't rebuild what you broke with me. The room deflated. The performance was collapsing scene by scene. Claire stepped closer to Amelia, subtly signaling that everything was legally airtight. Amelia nodded once. It was time. She reached for her bag but Henry slammed his hands on the table. Sit down. You are not walking away. Amelia paused, turning slowly toward him. And why is that? Henry pointed at the pile of documents. Because this family built you. Amelia stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head softly. No, Dad. You built walls. I built myself. Mark scoffed. You're really going to abandon us? Amelia responded, I'm not abandoning you. I'm acknowledging who you really are. Daniel, normally the quietest, finally spoke. Amelia, what do you want from us? She looked at him sadly. Nothing. He swallowed hard. Then why come? Amelia lifted her chin. Because closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you take. Linda reached out a trembling hand. Can't we fix this? Amelia stepped back again. You never fixed anything. You only patched what was convenient. The truth cracked through the room like thunder. Seeing the collapse in their eyes, Amelia finally laid the last piece on the table. The properties are being transferred to a restructuring firm, she said. They'll manage them properly. You will receive the buyout amount as a final settlement. Henry's jaw trembled. You're shutting us out of our own legacy. Amelia breathed in deeply. Dad, there's no legacy left. There's only debt. Mark placed his head in his hands. We just needed time. You had years, Amelia replied. Years to change. Years to ask for help with honesty instead of manipulation. Linda whispered, we didn't know how to reach you. Amelia held her gaze. You only reach for me when you're sinking. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. Are we losing everything? No, Amelia said gently. You're losing control. Not everything. Henry's lips pressed together in tight defeat. For the first time he looked older. Smaller. Human. Amelia inhaled once, steady and full. The offer stands, she said. Take it or leave it. But this is the last time I will sit at a table where love has to be purchased. The silence that followed was thick and heavy, almost physical. They weren't shouting anymore. Now it was a quiet unraveling. A truth settling in their bones. Claire opened the door softly, signaling the meeting was over. Henry looked at Amelia with a mix of anger and desperation. You're throwing your family away. Amelia shook her head. No. I'm letting go of people who already threw me away. Mark, still stunned, whispered, we didn't know you'd change this much. I didn't, Amelia replied. I grew. Daniel blinked fast, trying to understand her tone. Do you hate us? Amelia's expression softened, not with forgiveness but with clarity. No. I don't waste hate on people I've already released. Linda held her napkin tightly. So this is it? Amelia nodded once. This is it. Claire escorted Amelia to the door. Just before leaving, Amelia turned back one last time. I hope you learned something from this, she said. Because power isn't in taking, it's in choosing when to walk away. And then she stepped out, leaving behind the only version of family she had ever known. The hallway outside felt different, quiet, honest, free. Amelia walked with Claire toward the parking lot, the night air thick with the smell of cut grass and cold breeze. Claire glanced sideways. How do you feel? Amelia let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Like I finally exhaled after years. Claire nodded. They won't take this lightly. Amelia smiled faintly. They don't have to. I'm not responsible for their reactions anymore. They reached the parking lot where her old sedan sat in one corner, looking as tired as the version of herself she once was. Claire held out the keys to Amelia's SUV. You don't need to pretend anymore, she said quietly. Amelia stared at the sleek, dark vehicle. Her real life. Her real success. You're right, she whispered. She unlocked it, feeling a weight leave her. One she'd carried for years, the weight of hoping her family would ever choose her. Inside the SUV, the leather felt unfamiliar but welcoming. Amelia rested both hands on the steering wheel, grounding herself in the moment. Her phone buzzed. A call from her mother. She stared at the screen for a long second. The number glowed like a final test. Claire leaned in. You don't have to answer. Amelia shook her head gently. I know. She didn't swipe to decline. She blocked the number. Just like that, it vanished. Claire let out a small breath. That must have been hard. Amelia looked out at the glowing city. Not as hard as staying in a place where I was never seen. She started the engine. The GPS screen lit up softly, waiting for her direction. For the first time she had nowhere she had to go for anyone. She had the whole road ahead, and it felt like the world finally opened. As she pulled out of the parking lot, Amelia felt something settle in her chest, a clean, strong peace. She drove past the country club windows where shadows of her family gathered, still arguing, still blaming, still circling the same wound. But she didn't look back again. Not once. Her future wasn't behind those windows. At a red light, her phone buzzed again, this time from Daniel. She let it ring. She didn't block him. Not yet. But she didn't answer either. They'll adjust, she said to herself softly. Or they won't. For the first time their choices were not her burden. The light changed. She drove forward. She stopped at a quiet overlook, a place she used to drive when she needed to think. The city sparkled below, alive and endless. Amelia stepped out, letting the cool air wrap around her. She remembered the nights she spent doubting herself, crying alone, convincing herself she would never be enough. But tonight, standing above the city she built her life in, she realized she had outgrown those fears too. I made it, she whispered. Not with help. Not with applause. Alone. She slid back into the SUV and checked her inbox, messages from investors, partnerships, opportunities. A whole world waiting. And none of it depended on the approval of people who never believed in her. She smiled, small, quiet, victorious. On the drive home she passed the old apartment complex where she once lived, sleeping in her car some nights when the rent was too high. She slowed down for a moment, taking in the building. You survived, she whispered to her younger self. You did more than survive, you built something real. The memory didn't hurt anymore. It felt like proof. Proof that she could build beauty from abandonment. Strength from neglect. Power from silence. Her phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. She ignored it. She didn't owe explanations anymore. Not to anyone. When she finally reached her home, Amelia parked and turned off the engine. The night was quiet, calm, still. She walked up the driveway slowly, feeling her shoulders finally loosen. Inside she dropped her bag, sat on her couch and let herself breathe. Not the shaky breath of someone trying to hold everything together, but the steady breath of someone who had finally set everything down. She leaned back, closed her eyes and smiled softly to herself. This wasn't the end of something painful. It was the start of something clean. Something hers. She whispered one final truth into the quiet room. Family is not defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up. And with that, Amelia Reed stepped finally into a future she chose for herself. Moral lesson. You are not obligated to carry people who only remember you when they need something. Family is not who shares your blood, family is who shows up, respects your boundaries and values your growth. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival. Thanks you for watching, and please remember to tell us where you are watching from today. Hit the like button, comment and subscribe to this channel for more of this.